Sure. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to say call hello, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem, Rakah, HaKodesh. And send double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of Great Millstone. Send much peace, love, and salutation to you bros out there, pushing the glory of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shah, sincerity and truth. It's the brother Ariala. This is just a real quick World War III Algo update, a couple of headlines. As you know, there was been talks from the Trump administration about peace deals being made for the Ukrainian-Russia conflict, for the conflict in Gaza. But we know none of these agreements or none of the things that that they say are going to happen are going to come to fruition, because we know what the prophecies say about Armageddon and the impending World War III. You know, and then people can talk about peace deals and this and that, but what does the scripture say? You know, just as they say, peace and safety, sudden destruction will come upon them. Sure enough, we've had events because of the situation that is going on in Gaza that have escalated tensions between the state of Israel, the United States, and its allies, and the surrounding nations, and pretty much between Iran and other Ishmaelites, and Iran being Elam, but then and Ishmael over there. Okay, so I'll play a few clips, go through a few scriptures. As you can see, the title I pulled up Kim Iverson, and it says, "Are we going to war with Iran? Is this America first?" She's questioning the Trump administration and their intentions. And the title is "War with Iran. Trump marches to Israel's drumbeat." And even that right there in of itself is a prophetic statement. Why? Because when you go to the book of Jeremiah, it's also in the following chapters, it says, Jeremiah 49 verse 2, "Therefore hear the counsel of the Lord that he have taken against Edom, and his purposes that he have purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make the inhabitants desolate with them. See, the earth is moved at the noise of their fall, at the cry of the noise thereof was heard in the Red Sea." And this is what we're going to see, man. "Behold, he shall come up and fly as an eagle, and spread his wings over Basra. And at that day shall the heart of the mighty men of Edom be as the heart of a woman in her pains." So, you know, the least of the flock is going to draw out all these Edomites to come to this battle, the war of Jehoshaphat, and the battle of Jehoshaphat. The least of the flock is the small hats. So they going to the drumbeat of the state of Israel, so to speak, man. And when you listen to Netanyahu, he's bold, very, very bold. And that's what we want. We want a proud Edomite, all right? The least of the flock is drawing out these nations and provoking regional conflicts and war.
The U.S. was striking them. So what essentially happened was that Yemen decided to start striking Israeli ships in the Red Sea because Israel had violated the ceasefire agreement, and the terms of Yemeni's Houthis was they wanted to see an end to the war against the Palestinians, and they wanted, excuse me here, let me get this for you. There we go. I want to show you guys some of these images of what's gone on there in Yemen, these strikes. So you can kind of take a look there. But the issue was that Israel had backed down from violated many times the ceasefire agreement that it had with Gaza. They were trying to change the terms of the agreement, into the agreement, the three-stage agreement, and then Israel was actually going to, they wanted to redo the deal midway through. And because Hamas didn't want to redo the deal, Israel decided that they would just starve the Palestinian people. So what did the Houthis do? They said, all right, you're at it again, so we're at it again. So they started going after the Israeli ships. And what did the United States do in response to Israeli ships being attacked by the Houthis in the Red Sea, the U.S. starts bombing Yemen because we're being attacked. I mean, no U.S. ships at that point had been attacked. It was just Israeli ships. And then the U.S. goes and bombs Yemen on behalf of Israel. And on top of it, Donald Trump says that we're actually that this is Iran. So it looks like we're going to war with Iran is what we're heading towards. He says, let nobody be fooled. The hundreds of attacks being made by Houthis, the sinister mobsters and thugs based in Yemen who are hated by the Yemeni people, which, by the way, what I was showing you here, this one, does this look like they're hated by the Yemeni people? I mean, this is all the Yemeni people over the weekend coming out in droves in support of Palestine, in support of the Houthis' defense of Palestine. So
now, when you see this is media, both ways, we don't know what the fuck this is. We don't know what this picture is. And around, I don't know where that's at. I don't know. I'm assuming it's Yemen because of the flags, and we have to assume that they're in solidarity for God, for the Palestinians. We don't know. It's just a picture or a video, small clip. So there's all this propaganda going on in general, and either way, it's doing nothing but fermenting war. This is when the scriptures talk about wars and rumors of wars. And yeah, right now you have this ceasefire agreement that's supposed to have been going on where basically Hamas frees these Israeli hostages that, they apparently have. And then there's supposed to be food routes and aid opened up in the Gaza Strip so people can be taken care of in Gaza. Well, none of this stuff is happening. And so Benjamin Netanyahu took it upon himself to go ahead and start firing on Gaza. But even before that, because these Yemeni Houthi rebels that are right there on the coast in the Gulf, they're able to stop ships from coming in and out there. So they're saying, okay, well, y'all not going to open up aid for the Palestinians, then we're not going to allow your ships to come through here. We're going to see your ships as enemy vessels and attack them as they try to cut through here. And basically, Trump stood up for the small hats and bombed targets in Yemen that are associated with the Houthi rebels, right? So now you have active military action from America jumping in on the behalf of the small hats, which goes back to what we read about there in Jeremiah, the 49th chapter, where the least of the flock is drawing things out, man.
They don't really look like they're all that hated, but nonetheless, Trump says that they're hated by the Yemeni people, all emanate from and are created by Iran. And he has Iran in all caps. So here we go. War with Iran. Wind down war with Ukraine and war with Russia so that we could just go into war with Iran. So smart. Any further attack or retaliation by the Houthis will be met with great force, and there is no guarantee that the force will stop there. Iran has played the innocent victim of rogue terrorists from which they've lost control, but they haven't lost control. They're dictating every move, giving them the weapons, supplying them with money and highly sophisticated military equipment, and even so-called intelligence. Every shot fired by the Houthis will be looked upon from this point forward as being a shot fired from the weapons and leadership of Iran. And Iran would be held responsible and suffer the consequences, and those consequences will be dire, says Donald Trump, President of the United States of America. Are we going to war with Iran on behalf of Israel? Because how does it benefit the United States for us to go to war with Iran? What is in it for me if we go to war with Iran? Would you even notice, besides the fact that our kids are being sent off to die in Iran for Israel? Does that make sense to anybody here? Is this America first? Is this what Donald Trump was elected on? Because I'm pretty sure it was to end wars, not to escalate them. But this is the last war in the great wars that Israel's trying to fight. They started off with, they wanted a war with Iraq. They got one. They wanted a war with Syria. They just topped. Look what happened to now. There's a slave market in Libya. Somalia, Sudan, you didn't even know we were in Somalia and Sudan, right? I mean, none of us really even knew. That one went under the radar, but the United States actually sent in military and have been doing.
You see, and so you have all all of these regional conflicts. And when they talk about these ceasefire agreements, we all know that it's a bunch of BS. And we know Iran is scheduled to jump in this thing. You know what I'm saying? We get frustrated with Iran because it's like they're sitting with their, they're sitting on their hands and allowing their Muslim brothers to get smacked. But eventually, the Most High is going to put the spirit on them to have to fight back. Right? This is 2nd Ezra chapter 15, verse 28. It says, "Behold, an horrible vision, and the appearance thereof from the east, where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon the earth, that all they which hear them may fear and tremble." So you're going to have Ishmael all across the Middle East fighting each other and fighting, people on both sides. Currently, you have a situation in Syria that's completely chaotic, where they have ousted Bashar al-Assad and in their regime. You have a terrorist organization groomed out of Afghanistan and Iraq, war-torn, ready to rock, ready to fight, have been in Syria fighting. They've taken over. Right now, they're killing Christians and different sects of this different opposing Muslim sects. So the Shia Muslims are all over the place. Okay, these different Sunni sects that have been set up by the Mossad, have been set up by CIA. They're running rampant. You have Turkey that's trying to make sure that the Kurds don't basically get stirred up over there in Syria and different areas. Okay. They're going nuts. Not to mention everything going on in Lebanon with Hezbollah. They've been decimated by the state of Israel and opened up. We're speaking about the Palestinians in Gaza right now. That's another set in all this going on. What these Houthi rebels that are in Yemen? There's opposing governments there. We don't know how Saudi is going to react because they're trying to make their bread. Okay, so all of this is going on, and the scripture said that this is how it would be with Ishmael. Right? This is the prophecy of Ishmael. Genesis 16:11 says, "And the angel of the Lord said unto her," all right, talking about Hagar, "Behold, thou art with child, and shall bear a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction. And he will be a wild man, and his hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. And he shall dwell in the presence of his brethren." All right, so out of Ishmael, you had, I believe he ended up having 12 kids or something similar to that. All these kids that came out of Ishmael, and they've set themselves up all across, Africa and what's called the Middle East, and even all the way up to Persia and different parts of that Southern European / Asian bloc. Okay, you have this mix where Ishmael's all in his region, and his hand is against every man, bro. So we got all of these different conflicts that are breaking out, and we know what it's going to lead to. We know what it's going to lead to, the war of Armageddon. We'll get that scripture here in a second. And we're seeing it all continuously manifest. I'm going to play a little bit more of this and go to the next clip.
Doing military operations in those areas. What happened? They wanted a war with Iraq. They got one.
See?
They wanted a war with Syria. They just toppled it. They wanted Lebanon. They destabilized it. Libya. What happened to Gaddafi? And now there's a slave market in Libya. Somalia and Sudan. You didn't even know we were in Somalia and Sudan, right? I mean, none of us really even knew. That went under the radar. But the United States actually sent in military and have been doing military operations in those areas. Why? I don't know. Do you even know where they are on a map? Most people don't. Yet we were having military interventions in Somalia and even dead soldiers.
Right now, they even in Congo, in the Congo. Vying for that because of their minerals and the things that they got in the Congo. Trying to get ready to the MOTB. for the MOTD and have those raw minerals and resources. Esau's all over the place stirring up trouble, man. Like it talked about, I believe it's Psalms 140, how he's continually gathered together for war. Somebody can put that in the chat.
We have dead Americans because of why exactly? Oh, because Israel had it on their list, and we quietly went and helped them do whatever it was they wanted us to do for them in Somalia and Sudan. And now they want us to go and take out Iran. That is the final one, and that's the one they want the most. And they've got their puppet now, Donald Trump, completely in office. He's doing everything that they want, and it looks like he's also marching us to war with Iran.
And when Iran come in, they're gonna come in with strength. They got a real strong Navy, got a good strong military, okay, and they got the backing of some big dogs. That's why when you go back to 2 Ezra 15 and 30 says, also the Carmanians raging in wrath shall go forth as wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come and join battle with them, and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. So when the Persians jump in this thing, they're gonna come with great power, great wrath, man. Okay. And it's gonna tear up everything around it. People are gonna have to start pulling out more military might when these more advanced nations get into the battle. You ain't gonna be able to just, do it with your little pea shooters. Okay? It's gonna get more serious. But the spirit is on Benjamin Netanyahu to make this thing happen, to jump this thing off. We say, hey, let's get it. That's what we, let's get it. You know what I'm saying? This is why we called it the hopeful year of deliverance and destruction of Esau. These things must go down in order for our deliverance to come. Okay? Sure, that's good. All right, let me play this.
Hamas rejected time and again every proposal made. And I told you many times that if Hamas will continue to refuse, if it will not release our hostages, we will go back to fighting. And indeed, we have gone back to fighting. We have gone back to fighting with great... With the Minister of Defense, I have given the recommendation of Sa'ar and the defense establishment to go into intense fighting against Hamas. From now on, Israel will take growing action against Hamas with greater intensity. From now on, negotiations will only be under fire. Hamas has already felt over the last 24 hours the Israeli strength, and I want to promise to you and to Hamas that this is just the beginning. We will continue to fight in order to achieve all of our goals in this war.
So they're right now pummeling the Palestinians, men, women, and children. Nobody's safe. They're going in and they're destroying everything. It's not a game. It's not a game. All right, it's going down.
I'll get a minute, but first, joining us now with the very latest out of the Middle East, our own Trey Yanks. Trey, a lot of activity tonight.
Yeah, Sean, good evening. Breaking news tonight out of the Middle East. Israeli fighter jets are currently striking the Gaza Strip. The ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is over. The Prime Minister's office releasing a statement early this morning saying from now on, Israel will operate against Hamas with increasing military force. The operational plan was presented late last week by the IDF and approved by the political echelon. Reports from inside Gaza indicate there are extensive Israeli strikes taking place across the Strip in major population centers like Gaza City and the southern city of Rafah. As this story progresses, we will continue to find out more information and determine whether or not Israeli ground forces are involved. But remember, this comes after a nearly 2-month ceasefire that went into effect in mid-January and saw dozens of living hostages freed from Hamas captivity. President Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, has been working overtime in the region, ferrying messages back and forth, not only between Tel Aviv and Washington, but also in cities like Doha and Cairo. The Trump team was working late into this week trying to determine if they could get a last-minute deal together between Israel and Hamas. There was a plan presented that would see 11 living hostages freed from Gaza, exchanged for Palestinian prisoners, but Hamas was simply not willing to accept that agreement. And clearly tonight, the Israelis have gone back to war against this organization inside Gaza. Again, the latest information that...
the whatever the agreement was, it probably was not a good agreement. Probably was whack, But, hey, this ain't doing nothing but stirring things up, and it must needs be done. Joel chapter 3 verse 9 says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into hooks and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. So now these little nations, these little Ishmaelite nations are going to have to get their armaments up. Their deals with Russia, their deals with Iran, their deals with other surrounding nations, and get their military up, man. It's not going to be about, economic and political deals. It's going to be about guns and missiles and tanks, all right, and aircraft. Verse 11 says, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Let the heathen be awakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put ye in a sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full. The fats overflow. Wickedness is great, right? Multitudes in the valley of decision. For the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. Okay, so now this is why we're seeing this gathering in this valley, in this area, because the Lord is getting ready to judge all these heathen nations. And everybody's going to get involved, man. You see what's happening with the political tensions between America and the EU, America with NATO, okay, America with Russia and its allies economically, all right? All of these things up for what? Perdition, disaster, destruction. There ain't going to be no getting around it. We're marching headlong into it. Okay? All right, so I'm going to get this. Check this out.
And we start with a Fox News alert. Israel is signaling plans for a broader offensive in Gaza and continues to hammer Hamas targets.
All right, the fragile ceasefire ending over the terror group's refusal to release the remaining hostages, Alexander.
Trey Yanks is live from Israel with the latest. Good morning, Trey.
Hey guys, good morning. Overnight, Israel went back to war against Hamas, launching dozens of airstrikes throughout the Gaza Strip. Massive explosions rocked major population centers, including Gaza City, Khan Yunis, and Rafah. We know many people were killed, though Fox News cannot independently confirm the exact number. Among the dead are reported to be numerous senior Hamas officials, including Issam al-Tawallis, who was acting as one of the de facto leaders of Hamas. Funerals were held this morning for some of the dead, so that many are civilians. The question now is if this will continue. National security.
And nobody's gonna say anything to the small hats about the civilians that they're killing, right? And they're and the state of Israel is turning it up. But this is how war is, man. All right, we're gonna see more of this because this is not gonna do anything. What do you think these young men that live here are gonna do? When they see their whole family get ripped apart and destroyed, they're going to hate the small hats forever. This is why the scripture says, beat your plowshares and your pruning hooks into sword and spears. Okay? They're not doing but creating more groups against them. And the prophecy says when the real nation of Israel, when the nation of Israel is in the land, there's supposed to be peace in the land. That's not what's happening with these small hats. That's one indicator that they're not the actual people that the Bible is talking about. These are just implants, just Edomite implants.
Security Council spokesman Brian Hughes said in a statement, quote, Hamas could have released hostages to extend the ceasefire, but instead chose refusal and war. Hamas declined to accept a previous ceasefire proposal put forward by the Trump administration. And right now, there are indications that Israel could be.
Now, you remember that ceasefire deal included the United States basically coming and taking over the land, taking over construction, building up the city. Basically, it meant for the Palestinians to leave. So you know that Hamas wasn't going to sign no deal that says that, man. They feel like that they have been there for all these millennia and they deserve to be there. Okay, up from the beginning to basically continue this war. They knew that Hamas wasn't going to sign that deal, which is fine with us.
preparing to enter Gaza on the ground. Evacuation orders were given this morning, with the IDF releasing a map for Palestinians to leave the entirety of the Gaza border area. Israeli officials quoted in local media today are telling Hamas to release the remains for the firing stop. Israel clearly changing negotiation tactics here. Looking at the situation in both Doha and Cairo, they're trying to put new pressure on Hamas to free the remaining Israelis held inside Gaza. Guys?
What's the sense, Trey, inside the country? They feel as though this is overdue, or is there more angst about the hostages?
So there are two parts to this. This is a little bit of inside baseball, but it's very important here. We just learned last hour that the Jewish Power Party, led by Itamar Ben-Gvir, the country's former national security minister, will be rejoining the government coalition. Now, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has to pass a budget next week, and this do so. The other thing to look at here is the hostages. There are 59 hostages still being held by Hamas inside Gaza. They were dragged into the Strip against their will on the morning of October 7th, and 24 of them are believed to be alive. And we've spoken with so many of the hostages who were released from Hamas captivity, from Hen Alma Goldstein, from Kafar Aza, to Shani Gorin, from the Aroz, to recently I spoke with Nama Levy. One of those surveillance negotiations continue. President Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, basically proposed a deal to Israel and Hamas that would see a two-phased deal. 11 living hostages set to be released in the first phase, and this would ultimately allow both Israel and Hamas to slowly but surely enter into phase 2 of a broader ceasefire agreement. Hamas rejected that deal that was put forward by the Trump administration and basically agreed to a deal of their own to release all of the bodies of American citizens that are currently being held Gaza and the final living American, Idan Alexander. This was seen by Israeli officials and Trump administration officials as a spin by Hamas, trying to pressure negotiators and also trying to drive a wedge between the Israelis and the Americans. And so we did see that statement. But again, what we are looking at here is likely some sort of proposal on the table that remains. And at this hour, we do understand, according to Arab media, that
So we're gonna see this thing.
We have been following the breaking news after
We're gonna see this thing continue to escalate, which is good. It just
Israel launched a series of airstrikes in Gaza, killing 400 people. And this just in right here, the Israel Defense Forces stating that the head of the Hamas government and the most senior figure of authority in Gaza and was responsible for the functioning of Hamas's terror regime in Gaza has been eliminated, according to the IDF. He also oversaw the integration of all of Hamas's branches in Gaza and their use for terrorist purposes. Of terrorist targets, the IDF says, were struck to hinder Hamas's governmental and military capabilities to remove threats to Israel, including numerous mid-level and senior-ranking terrorists in Hamas's political bureau who were eliminated. And you can see the photos of the 4 leaders they say were eliminated in this. This comes as Israel launched a series of airstrikes in Gaza, killing more than 400 individuals, shattering a ceasefire in place since January with its deadliest bombardment in a 17-month war with Hamas. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordering the strikes after Hamas refused Israeli demands to change the ceasefire agreement. Officials.
boom. So yeah, man, we continuously escalate, you bro, and check more news if you want to. I'm gonna read and then we'll close it out. This is let's see. Oh, okay. Kind of. Yeah. This is Isaiah chapter 13, verse 6. It says, "How ye, for the day of the Lord is at hand, it shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt, and they shall be afraid. Pangs and sorrow shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth. They shall be amazed one at another. Their faces shall be as flames. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it." Okay, so this is what we're going to see, man. we're gonna see these things continue to escalate. Like we said, Netanyahu's got a demon on him, and let him cook. Let him cook, man. You know, when you look at this guy, he don't give a damn. Okay, he's ready to kill any and everything, man. All right, but that's going to lead to what? More and more of the move towards World War III. Now, right now, Ishmael is being stirred up, and the more you kill their top leadership, the more dysfunctional they're going to become as a group, and it might actually make them more dangerous because some of these young people are going to be more inclined to use weaponry that are unconventional, like tactical nukes and stuff if they can get their hands on it, and doing stuff like that. So we shall see. You know, like, as usual, bros. You know, on it. We'll keep everybody updated through the Spirit and Power. How about you, Shai? So with that being said, man, I'm gonna go ahead and close out, man. Lord willing, that was edifying. Call hello, Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles, the elders, and bishops of Great Millstone. Much peace, love, and salutation to y'all came out there pushing the word of Yahweh Shai, sincere and true. Shalom.